City Current. Produced by Dakota Media Access. In-depth discussion with Bismarck and Mandan city officials. Watch on Government Access Channel 602 HD or tune in to Radio Access 102.5 FM. Always local, always current.
Good morning and welcome to City Current. This is Mary Van Sickle. We're here in the studios at Dakota Media Access. It's a Mandan edition of City Current. So Jim Neubauer is here, City Administrator for the City of Mandan.
And thanks for having us, Mary. A little chillier out than it was a couple of weeks ago, but it looks like we're going to have a little cold weather for a bit.
February 5th, Jim.
That's right. There's no complaining, though, because winter has been very kind to us all.
So far, we get these little pockets of sub-zero, and we all freak out for a while.
Yeah.
So
it's okay.
This too shall pass.
Yes.
So
another day closer to spring.
True. And we are here, as always, to talk about the actions of the City Commission meeting last night. Mandan had their regular meeting. Started out with a couple of announcements, which always nice on some positive notes, and one of them is about the beautification recognition for a property owner. This was a residential property.
Yep, the Google property that had done an awesome job of decorating for Halloween.
Yeah.
So it seems weird, we're close to Valentine's Day, but we're talking about Halloween decorations.
Well, we have a picture we can pop up on the,
Excuse me.
pop up on the screen if we would, of some of the Google family, did you say?
And
Okay.
if you're familiar with Roosevelt Elementary School, I think this property is just to the south of them. Fantastic decorations, and I know they were, by the smiles on their faces last night, they seemed very pleased to be recognized because I believe there's been a lot of work.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure there is.
A little bit of traffic hazard going on in that area, people slowing down to look or to get out of their vehicle and kind of walk around. So,
but I think it was interesting because their neighbors nominated them, and they don't mind a bit. They like the fact that they're people are paying attention and appreciating what the Google family is doing with this holiday.
So, kudos to them. Great job. And I know that our communications specialist, Gary Schmidt, presented that award to them last night on behalf of the Beautification Committee. Well, I just want to remind folks that this is not this is open all year round.
Well, clearly.
Go on.
It's February and we're talking about Halloween decorations.
Right. I think it's weird because a few weeks ago we talked about Christmas decorations on the Burger property, and here we're into Halloween decorations.
Yeah.
But again, we remind folks that if you're interested in nominating your neighbor or any other property that you could see, whether it be commercial or residential, go on to citymandan.com and you'll be able to find a nomination form. And there's a process, so we contact the house that's been nominated or the property to make sure that they're okay, get their permission to put some photos out there and do the public recognition. So there is a process to it, and but like I said, we're pretty happy, and I think the Googles were pretty pumped up.
Yeah.
To get the award last night.
It's great. Well, we're moving into springtime, so we'll see what other recognition comes forward. Also, another announcement, and this has to do with property tax credits. The first one we wanted to mention, which was mentioned last night, was the primary residence credit that was established by the legislature in 2023. And this is a $500 credit available to any property owner in the
primary residence property
register.
owner. And so it's a very simple process, and we encourage folks to do that. And then I think it's important that we always want to remind people too. So Kimberly Markley, our city assessor, and we have lots of people come in asking for help doing this. I think there are maybe 5 or 6 questions that you need to answer.
It's real simple.
Very simple. It might take you a minute at home if you're doing it from your computer at home or however else. If you come into City Hall, we can help you with it too. But again, 5 or 6 very easy questions to get your name in the system to get that credit. Yes,
and I think probably the most tricky question you're going to get is what's your parcel number?
Yep.
And you don't readily know that. You know your address, but it is on your tax statement as well.
It is on your tax
so
statement,
you should be able
and
to get
also that information is online too. So if you go to our maps section, it'll probably take you to the Morton County Maps section where you can find your property tax statement, your parcel number, and your parcel ID number, and all those things. So it's all available for you. And I think Kimberly's just reminding folks to make sure you do this. It's
Love-
$500
I
and
love those
take
maps
advantage
on
of it.
the,
Yep,
online. Those are great to investigate. You can spend a lot of time looking at your maps online.
absolutely.
So this is tax.nd.gov. Can get in there and
Yep.
find this. I think the thing we need to mention, though, is March 31st is the deadline. That's the
Correct.
only thing you got to do is you got to hit that deadline.
Get
Do
it
it
done.
before that March 31st deadline.
Yep.
So, but there were a couple other property tax credits that we wanted to mention as well.
These would be relative to actions from the 2023 legislative sessions because we're still in that biennium. Changes to the homestead tax credit, I think some disability credits, veterans, if disabled American veterans credits too. So again, if you have questions about that, you can feel free to call our office or stop in. Again, our assessing office is dealing with those questions all day long, and they are very busy between now and March 31st, but we're more than happy to help you.
Yeah.
Walk you through that either on the phone or in person.
Yeah. If there's any doubt, again,
Right.
contact City of Mandan and they'll help you with that.
State of North Dakota's Office of the State Tax Commissioner website has a lot of that information on there, and we always link a lot of our stuff to their stuff. So if you go to citymandan.com, under our assessing department, it'll take you a majority of the time to the North Dakota State Tax Department.
Sounds good.
So shout out to them too.
Yes, for sure. Consent agenda, we did want to bring up one item. We don't usually talk about applications,
Yep.
approval on applications, but this has to, there's kind of two parts to this, Monty Drive, and then your water treatment phase 3 that's coming up
Correct.
too. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we had another public input meeting a week ago, I believe, on Thursday night with residents in the Monty Drive area to talk about several significant water line breaks in that area over the past several years. We need to get in there and start replacing a lot of the water lines in there. This is an application to the Department of Water Resources for grant funding. And usually that is about 60% of your cost. So if you've got a $100 project, the grant may cover $60 of that, and then the local part is $40. Like last Thursday, public meeting up at Lewis and Clark Elementary School, a few residents came to that, and we explained, here's the project, here's the when it's going to happen, and here's what it'll cost you at the end of the day. So again, that was an application for additional funding to assist property owners with that cost.
Okay.
The other,
Would that local part be a special assessment then on each property?
yes.
Okay.
So if I remember my numbers right, we are putting some Department of Water Resources funding in there, which comes from oil and gas tax revenue that the state of North Dakota receives.
Okay.
So it is a matter of getting that back into the communities and into the taxpayers' hands. We also have part of our city utility fund. So when you pay your utility bill, your water, sewer, street lights, things like that, part of that goes into a fund to help pay for these projects. And I think we're using some prairie dog money in there, so that without any other assistance, if we were to special assess this cost directly to the homeowners, I think the cost was about $45,000 per parcel, and we're down to, I think, $8,500
Okay.
with all of this other funding assistance. The difference between paying about $4,000 a year in specials to $661 and change.
Significant, for
Significant difference, and why now? Those funding sources are available now. They may not have been available years prior to this, so we want to take advantage of when that money is there to provide that assistance.
So this would replace all the lead pipes that were originally put in
A lot of the
years
original
ago.
cast iron pipes and the lines that are, we had a couple apartment fires up in that area, and when you kind of open and close the hydrants, when you have that much water coming through, a myriad of items cause those pipes that are older to break.
Yeah.
And we saw that in this area quite a bit.
So this is a different area. Last time you were here,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about, and the commission had dealt with the night before, an application for a raise grant from
Yes.
Mandan proper.
Yep.
Similar problems, older neighborhood. That's not this area.
This is not
Monte
this
Drive is another area.
Monty Drive is up in the Lewis and Clark Elementary School area.
Okay.
The other one, it was called Raise Grant a few weeks ago. Now it's a Build Grant,
Okay.
building up infrastructure, blah, blah. I don't remember
That
what
was
that
quick.
acronym stands for, but, we had to switch gears from calling a raise grant to a build grant. But again, that similar, it's water, sewer, streets, streetlights
Okay.
in the Mandan proper area. The other part of this application last night was to the, again, Department of Water Resources for funding assistance for our water treatment plant optimization phase 3.
What do you anticipate the timeline to be for this,
The-
if successful?
Department of Water Resources, the Water Commission, as they're more normally known until they change their name, they usually meet, I think, every other month. And so we're in the queue.
Oh, This
on
could
those
happen
two.
this season?
These projects are expected to occur this summer.
Okay,
The water treatment plant optimization phase 3, I think, is a multi-year project. So we get the grant application in. If we're funded, we move forward with
that part of
way.
it. Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. What about the Monty Drive? What timelines?
Monty Drive is we are scheduled to start that this spring.
Okay.
So that will go out for bids here probably in February, March.
Oh,
And
okay.
contractors will be in that area this summer,
Okay. Sounds good.
provided bids come back and they're reasonable and things like
Sure.
that. So it's all,
Few
no
steps in
contracts with
between.
contractors have been signed yet, but that is the next step,
Okay.
is to move that forward.
Moving into new business, again, we seem, the agenda last night seemed to occupy a lot of water issues, like water intake and water treatment, and they were all on the agenda last night.
Yeah, City Engineer Jarek Wignes had a busy night.
Yes, he
and
did.
that it kind of comes and goes and ebbs and flows,
Sure.
but engineering and
It's a pun
infrastructure.
for water, ebbs and
Yes,
flows.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good pickup. So early in the morning, and I got in there. Infrastructure is obviously a big part of the city, right? Streets, water, sewer, everybody uses that stuff, and Jarek presents a lot.
Yes.
So it is part of normal and routine pipes, roadways that need to be replaced,
Sure.
and it's an ongoing and never-ending process.
So a budget amendment last
Mm-hmm.
night. Again, we don't usually talk about these kinds of things, but again, such significant
Right.
numbers and important to the city. Wastewater treatment plant, I&C system, which is a improvements, clarifier instrumentation and control system.
Right.
215,000 for a budget amendment for this year.
Correct.
Okay.
So a lot of times, we've got a major wastewater plant project coming up. We're trying to limp some of those systems through till we get to that point, and there are some times when you can't limp those systems along, and there's not enough Flex Seal, there's not enough duct tape to make some of those things continue to work. So we need to do some replacements. A lot of this relates to safety of our operators and making sure that we keep them safe and we keep the plant operational.
Sure.
It's one of those things you just can't turn off your water plant, just can't turn off your wastewater plant, because there's material coming in and material going out all the time.
Another budget amendment came from your IT department.
Mm-hmm.
New IT department.
New IT department,
New
yes.
IT director. She's done an assessment of your
Correct.
equipment since she's been on board not too long ago, and come to the board saying, we need to ramp up. We need to get
Yep.
where we need to go, and 2025 asking for a $250,000 change order to the budget to allow that. Staff computers, security cameras, whatever
Right.
has to come, servers.
Carrie Mitchell is our new IT manager. I think she started November 26th. Prior to that, just a little bit of background, Captain Chris Miller in the Mandan PD had been doing a majority of our IT stuff when Captain Miller was a lieutenant, and then there was some reorganization in the police department. Lieutenant Miller becomes Captain Miller. Prior to that, it was kind of a 90-10. 90% of his time was spent on IT issues, 10% on police issues. Now that ball has switched, so now it's 90% police issues and 10% IT issues, and we've been that way for roughly 2 years. So we've got some catching up to do, and we fully realized that we would need to do
Sure.
some. This project also includes some new security features in City Hall, and to assist us with that. So
Okay.
much needed improvements.
Approved last night. moving
Approved last
forward.
night, and these are things that we have been on. I think normal replacement schedule is about 3 to 4 years on PCs, because the security features and things like that within those operating systems, and also,
Sure.
the basic operating systems start not to be supported by those software vendors. And so I think ours have been kind of on a 5-year rotation. We want to move that to a 3 to 4 year rotation. A lot of that becomes several people will have a desktop and a laptop because of whether going from location to location. During COVID, there were some folks working remotely in different areas. Even in City Hall, we had spread people out a little bit. Rather than buy another desktop, we did buy laptops. Now we're kind of looking at going, why don't we buy one machine? We'll buy a laptop. You can plug your external keyboard into it, but you'll have one system, and that will save us in time when we update those that hardware and software versus 2 machines versus 1. It'll certainly save us that time. And so like I said, there's some efficiencies that are being built in here too, but it's going to take us a little bit of while to get caught up and on a regular rotation.
Well,
So
she sounds like she's hit the ground running.
she
so to
has,
speak,
doing an
so
excellent job for
a
us.
lot to do.
And I think that there is no lack of things to do. And I think part of this is also we're looking for an intern, because along with the building of new PCs, of loading the softwares and things like that, that takes time. It's fairly a routine job, but it still takes a lot of time to do. So if we can find an intern. So
And that was built into this request?
That's built into this request too. Again, some security features for City Hall, along with an intern, so it's not all just physical equipment. If someone has a computer science degree or CIS degree, computer information systems degree, let us know if you've got a daughter or a son, or someone's in college and they want to come home, or they're here for the summer, or even today.
Yeah.
It's like if we can get an intern that can work 5 hours a week.
Be a great experience.
Be great experience and be great help for us.
Yeah.
So again, if you have questions on that, get in touch with Amy Berger, our HR director, and we'll take it from there.
Sounds good. If you're just joining us, just want to remind our viewers and listeners, this is City Current. I'm Mary Van Sickle, and I'm here with Jim Newbar because it's a Mandan edition of City Current, and we are recording this program on Wednesday, February 5th. So moving on new business, back to the water.
Back to the water.
A change order for the raw water intake. Now, this is about decommissioning the older water intake system. This has been a project you've been working on for a long time, and it's almost at the end.
It's not quite as long as Memorial Highway, but it is close. I think we go back to probably 2008 or 2009 when some issues started happening with our intake at the water treatment plant. So now we have a new intake farther south in an area of the river that is more consistently has water instead of moving sandbars all around. When we do a change order like this, sometimes it's a cascading effect, whereas if you have one contractor doing work, but it takes them longer to do the work than what's expected, then it's kind of like building a house.
Yep.
Your framer or your concrete needs to be poured, your framers come in, your electrician comes in, your plumber come in. If one of those folks doesn't come in on time, it affects the whole work schedule for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what that is. There's pushback,
yeah.
and the decommissioning on the old intake structure took a little longer because the construction of the new intake structure took a little longer.
Yeah.
So again, kind of a minor change order in this.
Yeah, I think it was under 10,000.
Yep, still well within our contingency. So when we budget projects, usually there is a contingency fund, and we still have quite a bit of contingency money left over, which means when we adjust your rates to pay for this, that adjustment becomes less.
So when you're all done with this new raw water intake system, will there be a ribbon cutting or?
No, we already had one of those.
Oh, you did?
So
Okay.
we did this fall, and it's like, well, who wants to look at an intake? All it is a big concrete building with a bunch of pumps. But it's very important for us to do that because we invited members of our legislative team, we invited members of the public, we invited members of the Department of Water Resources, because the funding for this was the total, use really round numbers, $36 million total on this for everything that goes along with it. 60% of that was funded through the Department of Water Resources, which
Right.
is, again, oil and gas tax revenue. And the other 40%, 20% is by the City of Mandan residents through their utility bill, and the other 20% is through Marathon Mandan Refinery, who also has pumps and a facility, and we happen to be on their land.
Yeah,
So,
and a lot of players, a lot of sources of funding, they
Yeah.
all needed to come and,
yep. So it's
and
interesting
see the end
that
result.
some of our local legislators they showed up and I would have never thought this was here, because we like to build projects where nobody really knows what it is, right?
Sure.
But it
Makes
works.
sense.
So if you don't have to think about it, you don't have to see it. Everything is great. You turn your faucet on, water comes out. Thank you very much.
Yes.
We move on.
Water in,
So,
water out.
yep.
Now water out, wastewater treatment plant. You had a bid, advertising bid authorization moves
Yep.
forward. This is the phase 3
Yep,
again,
phase
and
3.
we do have a map of that. If we could
Correct.
pop, thank you. Shows a little bit about what that's going to look like out there.
Yeah, if you ever have toured our water treatment facility, it is a maze, and I've been doing this for 25 years. If I would go in there today, I would probably get lost if you put me in the middle, because there are so many pieces of this plant that have been added to over years. It all makes sense from an operational standpoint,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of pieces in there. The Phase 3 project will deal with some of the security features that we all love to talk about, and it also deals with some CO2 replacement lines, also some redundancy in the plant. When you do a water treatment plant or a wastewater plant, you want to make sure if you need to shut it down, you can do that and still do the things you need to do, fix what you need to do, and bring everything back online in a reasonable manner. So
Yeah.
again, optimization phase 3 will be out for bid shortly, and that's probably a 1 to 2 year project.
Fingers
When we get
crossed
done.
that
Yep.
they come in according to the estimates.
Yes,
can
always
move
hopeful
forward.
for that.
Zoning moratorium was
Mm-hmm.
extended also last night. Was an agenda item provided by your planner, Andrew Strami. Just a request to extend just a few more months on this zoning moratorium, which was
Yep.
mostly on self-storage facilities.
Correct. We started our zoning code rewrite about 18 months ago. We're moving into probably the 24-month phase. We extended that for about 5-6 months so we could gather some additional public input on the zoning code rewrite. And that causes, we did kind of a moratorium on self-storage units because we were having some issues with some of them. And we want to make sure that we are able to write the right rules, draft the right rules and conditions for self-storage units. And again, so this moratorium will put in place over the next few meetings to keep it in place.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
That went through too.
Yes, that will be probably on the agenda for the next 2 regularly scheduled commission meetings, as
Okay.
I think the ordinance needs to be changed a little bit, and all ordinance get a first consideration and second consideration. So
So
this
you
will
brought-
start the process.
Okay. You brought up the end of the meeting last night with the
Yep.
legislative update. It continues.
It continues.
To early April with the legislative session, and you're monitoring a lot of bills.
Yeah, I think there were over 1,000 bills that have been introduced so far. Hot topics include property tax caps in several different forms and fashions. We want to make sure we monitor those and provide testimony where it's appropriate. Mentioned last night, one of the big things is when we talk about back to wastewater treatment plants, there is a bill in there that provides $50 million in total. You can apply for up to $12.5 million as long as it doesn't exceed 60% of your project total. And again, we certainly will be, if this moves through, and we provided written and oral testimony in support of it, so that usually there are not grant programs related to wastewater treatment plant issues. So this goes to the collection of wastewater and also the treatment of wastewater, and it gets the foot in the door. So in the future, there may be other grant opportunities that come up too. So
Okay.
really good start, very supportive of this, helps our citizens, move that. And like I said, we've got a significant wastewater treatment plant project on the near horizon coming
You
up.
do.
One of those you have to.
Yeah.
These are things that have to be done.
I don't think anybody would move to Mandan if you didn't have the, it's wastewater
It
treatment.
was interesting because during the committee hearing, one of the representatives asked, there are some small towns where there is no system, and each home has a septic
Okay,
or a vault. Those towns aren't very big, but generally you have a lagoon or you have some type of system that will
Sure.
treat the issues in your community of that nature.
yeah. Any other bills that you're watching?
The property tax ones, there's many, there's several bills related to police departments, and I know that Chief Ziegler and the Police Chiefs Association are watching ones on drones and the use of drones.
Yeah, we
and
talked about that, I think,
things
the
like
last time,
that,
too.
that we want to make sure that those still remain a useful and practical part of our force, so that, I think Chief Ziegler would say that, and our fire chief, you put a drone up in the air to see where the fire is and where it is, and things like that have helped tremendously
Sure.
in uses that we've had so far. That we have several drone certified pilots in our police department that will assist other areas. Hey, can you fly over this? We talk about Crying Hill and Mandan Hill. Can you fly that area so we can get a better idea of what's actually going on up there?
Yeah.
And so several non-policed uses that we do, and we're grateful to have those pilots and the use of those. And we want to make sure that that is continued.
Yeah. You've been doing this for 25 years, as you say, so you've been through a few sessions. I think the thing that you had mentioned to me earlier, it's early on. There's going to be a lot of shifting around,
Right.
and really at crossover, what has survived each side, and
I think
that's the focus, and that's where the focus gets a little more intense, I would assume.
Yeah, thanks for aging me like that. But it was a little weird as I was driving into work. I think the first day of the session, I was thinking about in my time in the North Dakota Tax Department.
Before you're 25.
Before my 25 here, and going, okay, this would maybe be my 19th or 20th legislative session. And when you think they're every 2 years, you can do the math on that and go, Jesus, what are you doing? But like you said, it's early. There's a lot of maneuvering and compromising and things like that. And we want to make sure we are very thankful for our local legislative team. We know that we don't always agree on things, but we are agreeable to have conversations, and they're willing to listen to what we have to say on how all the bills may affect us. And so from that standpoint, City Mandan residents have been very fortunate. We talked about how many projects today, water and wastewater, whereby the state of North Dakota moves some of those revenues into the locals' hands.
Yeah.
You might not see it on your property tax bill, but you still see, we talked about the primary residence credit, we talk about the legislative buy-downs, and we also have the infrastructure parts from the Municipal Infrastructure Fund, aka Prairie Dog money, to Department of Water Resources assisting with a majority of our water projects and buying those costs down by 60%. So those funds are being turned back to the municipalities, and like I said, we're very thankful for that, and we do our best to recognize that and say thank you when it's appropriate.
Yeah, and for you all to pay attention.
Yeah.
For you to be on top of this, as well as your department heads.
We,
I would think all your department heads
all
are
of our
got their
department-
eyeballs on some of the bills that are coming.
Yep,
and
they
how
are.
they affect the city.
They are watching and making sure that nothing, because obviously when the legislature enacts legislation, goes through the process, signed by the governor, effective usually August or July 1st of the following year, we have to make sure that, okay, what do we need to change or do differently based on legislation that's just been passed. So yeah, it's a real team effort and a group effort to make sure everybody is, okay, did you see this on your bill on this way? We heard of this over here. So we're communicating all the time.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for that, and that kind of wrapped up the agenda from last night, but also yesterday was the State of the Cities, and
Yes.
your new Mayor Freilich gave a presentation on the status of Mandan, the state of Mandan, so to speak.
State of Mandan, yep. We talked about a lot of
Yes.
ongoing projects and a lot of ones that are maybe not this year or next year, but kind of out into the future, folks. So a good opportunity for both Mayor Schmitz and Mayor Freilich to give kind of their views
Yeah.
on where we are today.
They talked about a lot of things, and as you said, Mayor Freilich talked about all these big water projects,
Yep.
the new reservoir up on Collins going in, or the replacement
Yep.
reservoir, the interchange on I-94.
Sunset Interchange, again, a lot of these projects are multi-million-dollar, multi-year projects, from
Yeah, that's the big one, too.
Memorial Highway at
Yeah.
$120 million to potentially $120 million at a wastewater treatment plant, to potentially $50 million on a Sunset Interchange, to, you know, pick your favorite. And I think we're approaching maybe $500 million of investment in whether it's infrastructure or other items that need to be taken care of in town.
Yeah. And
No small task.
And all of these are in the Mandan Messenger too,
Yes.
which I think is, we always want to mention that you can sign up for the Messenger. So it details all these
Right.
projects, a lot of the status of the existing projects, and talks about what's coming in the future too. So, but a couple things that the mayor talked about yesterday that I thought were really interesting and pretty fun. And I do have a picture here of one of the slides. I don't
Right.
have all his slides. I should have loaded probably a few more, but this one was especially interesting to me and to us at Dakota Media Access,
Yeah.
because we've
Me
been...
too.
I bet. You know, it's been talked about for a long time about the City Hall in Mandan and
Correct.
the need to make some changes. I think a few years ago there was some interest in taking over the old Bill Super Value on Main, and that went a
Right.
different direction. But the need is still there.
Need is still there.
You exist in an old community center
World War
swimming
Memorial
pool
building.
and
Yeah.
you've gotten your use out of this building.
Yeah,
for
building
sure.
was 1933, 1934 construction, was not built as a city hall, was built as a kind of a public gathering facility, from the gymnasium on the second floor to the first indoor swimming pool in the state of North Dakota.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
It was
That's crazy.
it was the Taj Mahal. Has been seen several I don't want to really say even renovations, but I don't think the swimming pool was open very long. Gymnasium housed, dating myself again, going back to when I was a kid playing basketball up there on Saturdays.
And then it was Dakota
And
Star
Dakota
Gymnastics
Star
for a while.
Gymnastics
Yeah.
for many years. City Hall really moved in there in the mid '70s.
Okay.
On the
I didn't.
on the lower level.
Okay.
And
You've adapted well to the building. I think from a public standpoint, you've gotten your money's worth out of this existing building, but
Yes.
there's been discussion about the accessibility, always security becomes
Right.
important these days, and just the efficiency for staff. I've seen
Yes.
the upstairs, and I was always I'm super impressed with that big gymnasium.
Right.
And you and I have talked, and obviously this is an area of Dakota Media Access comes into play, is the meeting room itself.
right.
You know, again, it's been adapted, it's worked well up until now, but we know the technology is aging.
Yes.
We know the building is likely going to go through some modifications, and at that same time, we hope, and you have indicated that we'll be part of that discussion
Right.
about how that technology moves forward and how the meetings are presented in the future. So it's very exciting to us to see this.
Yeah, it is, I will say, wildly overdue, to be honest with you. And we love the building, we love the looks of it, and all those
You're
things.
right in the center of town,
Right in the
too.
center of town, great location.
Yes.
We even talk about the exterior of the building. You need new roof, you need new windows, because all of the seals on the windows that were installed 40 years ago have been cracked, and you can't clean them because all of the dirt is on the
geez.
inside. So you look and say, well, why don't you clean the windows? Yeah, we do, inside and out, and this is inside. The heating and cooling, there's a nice combination of hot water, steam heat, and some forced air, which is
Nice combination.
nice combination. The summertime consists of, I think, just about everyone has a dehumidifier near their desk running. In the wintertime,
Oh, my.
most people have a space heater going near their
gee.
desks. So just temperature control in there. And the layout that was done in the 70s does not necessarily serve us well
No.
into the time we're in now. So
Did you say what year the building was actually constructed?
1933, 34.
Okay.
So
The other issue too is besides the location in the center of the community is that you're you're right across the street from Morton County law enforcement courts, so that is kind of that area of government in Mandan. It makes sense.
Core area, your governmental district downtown. So yeah, it does make sense. Doesn't mean that with technology, again, it's really nice to have the county courthouse right across the street.
Sure.
There's communication back and forth every single day. It doesn't mean if you're several blocks away, you're picking up the phone or sending an email, things like that. So technology has changed that quite a bit too. But again, the center of your core of your downtown, and do we have 25 people roughly that are working in City Hall every single day. The working conditions there, it's time.
Yeah,
for lack of any
absolutely.
other better term, it's time. So that's one area that we're not saying it's going to happen this year, but we're seriously looking at how do we move this project forward.
Exactly. And if we could pop the picture up again, I just wanted to comment that if you're looking at this on the screen, the addition, which is obvious on the front, is primarily elevator access, which you don't really have now.
We have a split level house.
Yeah, and you have a lift down to the meeting room.
Correct.
So it is accessible currently. But this would, again, modernize that whole entry area for you and provide a elevator up into those.
Yep, so this is a concept through our Brownfields grant.
Yes.
There was a team that came in and they met with our staff. They walked through City Hall. They looked at the surrounding area and said, okay. They came up with this draft. I think it looks pretty darn nice. They've got some interior layouts. We've got a good start on how that would all function too. But we're really talking about a kind of a complete gut job.
Yeah.
If people remember Fire Station 1 on Collins Avenue in 2001, I believe that was completely gutted and rebuilt to what it is today. Actually, City Hall, Public Works, Police Station, Fire Station were there in the early 70s.
Yeah.
Things have changed a bit since then. When we did that renovation, fire department staff moved over and occupied, I think, the third floor of City Hall. So it's been used for several kind of, hey, we need some space coming over, and we'll make it work.
Well, another bonus is that there's so much opportunity here.
Right.
You've got this whole third level, I think, mostly is completely vacant at this point. You've got this large gymnasium area that can obviously turn into a lot of different things.
Yeah, we have several. The second floor is mainly the gymnasium. I think there are 4 different office areas on the second floor.
Okay.
Third floor, there are probably 5 or 6 different office areas.
Okay.
Some of them are being currently used for storage. The gymnasium, it's interesting when we talk about what are we doing up there now. Right now, we talked about drones earlier, right? So the police department is coming over doing some training on drone flying.
Oh, interesting.
We use our police department cadets in there are doing training. Police officers coming over there for, they're beating up the dummies and they're putting the mats on the floor and they're doing exercises up there now. So it's not completely unused.
Yeah.
It is being utilized, and for some of those purposes that, I walk up on the second floor and go, what are all these hoops? And they're using them for the flying their indoor drones through those hula hoops.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool stuff.
It is.
And we also they're doing some of the canine training up there too.
I think that we should emphasize the fact that this is not a final
Absolutely
plan
not.
here. This is only the initial concept.
It is a concept.
Yeah, please, there's going to be a lot of iterations of this particular plan as it moves forward. How does it incorporate with the law enforcement center across the street? What about parking? I mean, there's just a lot of things to consider. So,
what would you do to add an elevator on this building?
Yeah.
So this is one concept. You might move it on the east side of the building.
It could go a lot of ways. Yeah. There's just a lot of opportunity. I was really somewhat surprised yesterday to see the mayor mention this during his state of the city.
Right.
And the other one he mentioned, we don't have a huge amount of time. We got to wrap up pretty quickly here, but was also the modifications potentially to the sign on Crying Hill.
Crying Hill, yes.
It's deteriorated. It needs attention. And so some creative minds have gotten together and talked about what that might look like.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that, again, like the picture of City Hall, the concepts on Crying Hill are concepts right now. We have, it's kind of weird because 3 affiliated tribes was gifted property from Patrick Atkinson, very generously.
Okay.
The MAND, that property is owned by 3 affiliated tribes. The AN is owned by the city of Mandan. So when we did some brush cleanup and things like that, we obtained the permission from 3 affiliated tribes to do that. So we went up there and cleaned up, and then you realize, these concrete letters up here we thought maybe we could go up there and scrape and paint. Not that simple.
They're not going to last.
And not going to last.
Yeah.
And so we said, what else can we do? I know Mayor Freilich has been really big, and some of the community members have reached out and said, hey, you guys need to do something here. So again, what we've presented are very concept-driven. We want to make sure they are respectful and that we have included 3 affiliated tribes in those conversations because we know there is significant cultural significance, for lack of a better term. This is a very important hill, a very important piece of property. We want to be respectful to all parties involved.
Sure.
And so nothing that was shown yesterday is set in stone.
Again, a
but
concept.
they are concepts, and we're still in those consultations with 3 affiliated tribes and a group of people that are very interested in this. So again, feel
This
free
design will be coming forward.
Yep.
I think the 2 things that were probably most significant suggested was that rather than parallel to the ground,
Yep.
the sign will now be
That's what
vertical
concepts are,
and
is to lift those letters
Right.
off the ground and get them vertical and light them.
and illuminate them.
And
I
illuminate
thought those
them,
2 things
so-
were really great ideas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've thought about
Beautiful presentation is
Yeah,
coming into
we
Mandan.
want to make sure that the letters have lasted 40 years, and we want to make sure that our next project up there will last another 40 years,
Absolutely.
and we're able to maintain it and things like that. But the idea would be, hey, we can light this up, and it will really shine in the evening, and like I said, it'll pop.
I laughed.
And be respectful.
I laughed because I recalled Mayor Freilich said something to the effect, when asked about a question of how future tourists who might be using this renovated or resurrected rail line could be drawn to Mandan.
Yep.
He said, we're going to put a big arrow on that, say, come to Mandan
Right.
on the new side. So anyway, we've got to wrap up,
Yep.
Jim, and thank you for coming in today.
And thanks for having us. We
Yeah,
appreciate
we'll
it very
see
much.
you in a couple weeks.
Yep.
So, and thank you for tuning in to this edition of City Current.
For more information on what was discussed in this episode of City Current, visit cityofmandan.com or call 701-667-3215. If you have any suggestions, comments, or issues you would like addressed in future City Current episodes, contact us at info@freetv.org. This program airs on Government Access Channel 2 and 602 in HD, or on Radio Access 102.5 FM. It's also available as a podcast on radioaccess.org and as a video viewing link at freetv.org. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of City Current.